After launching the Moto G31 a few days ago, Motorola is back yet again with a new entry in its ever popular G line, and they're calling it the Moto G51. Hello everyone, Aman here from Mr. Phone, and in this video, let's take our first look at the brand new Moto G51. But before we start, you know the drill. Hit that red subscribe button if you haven't already, and turn on the bell so that you don't miss any of our latest updates. Let's get started. Unlike the G31, the Moto G51 comes in a solo offering, that is with 4GB LPDDR4X RAM coupled with 64GB of uMCP storage, which is kind of similar to UFS 2.2 in terms of performance, and this variant is priced at 14,999 rupees. Honestly, I prefer those phones that come out with single configurations because at the end of the day, it avoids all the confusion. And it's also easier to make a choice that way, if you know what I mean. So the Moto G31 having two variants, well, that is great, but the G51 having a solo variant, even better. So for the money, what does the G51 bring to the table in comparison to the G31? For starters, there's a 120Hz display and LCD panel, but yeah, it's a high refresh rate panel. Plus, there's support for 12 5G bands. There's 3 carrier aggregation, something I'll have to test out in the long term. Then there's the brand new Snapdragon 480 Plus chipset under the hood. More about that in a bit. There's an IP52 rating for protection against sweat and light splashes of water. And finally, there's a slightly faster storage type. So the Moto G51 is graced by a humongous 6.8-inch Full HD Plus LCD display at the front that refreshes at 120Hz. Initial thoughts would be that it's a well-calibrated panel, and I'd be lying if I say I like it better than the 60Hz OLED on the G31. But then again, the difference isn't quite that pronounced much, frankly, when it comes to the quality of the panel. And the plus point of the G51's display is the 120Hz refresh rate, which for me is a deal breaker. So between a 60Hz OLED and a 90Hz LCD, I'll be like, skip the LCD. However, when it's a 60Hz OLED versus a well-calibrated 120Hz LCD panel, that's when I would prefer the latter. Otherwise, the slender 20:9 aspect ratio makes sure that the phone is tall, meaning it isn't as difficult to operate with one hand, given you don't have small hands. But then again, I also won't deny that the phone does carry a bit of heft to it. Design-wise, you get a plastic build. Sadly, you don't get a textured back like it was on the Moto G31. I really loved it. But apart from that, the camera module looks visually the same as the G31, or even in terms of specifications, I believe both phones are using the same camera hardware. So a 50 megapixel triple camera setup at the back, wherein the primary sensor is a 50 megapixel unit. This is coupled with a multi-purpose 8 megapixel camera for depth and ultra wide angle photography, and finally a 2 megapixel macro sensor. At the front is a 13 megapixel camera for selfies and video calls. More about the camera performance of the Moto G51 coming up in my full review, so make sure that you are subscribed to Mr. Phone and following us on social. The links are in the description below. Moving on, the classic Motorola Batwing logo is embossed and doesn't feature the fingerprint sensor that is now found embedded inside the power button on the side. Speaking of which, there's a new power touch feature that lets you double tap the power button for accessing apps, shortcuts, contacts, etc. Besides this, there's a hybrid SIM slot, a USB Type-C port, a 3.5mm headphone jack, a single bottom firing speaker, and a dedicated switch for the Google Assistant if that is something you fancy. Coming to the hardware, the Moto G51 is powered by the brand new Snapdragon 480 Plus SoC, and don't let the 4 series chip fool you here, because when it comes to raw performance, the chip is almost as good as the Snapdragon 720G and the Dimensity 720G chipset. Handling the software is of course a stock Android 11 with the inclusion of MyUX and ThinkShield security for that added peace of mind. And when I talk about performance, well, honestly, I don't see much of a difference between the G51 and the G31 when it comes to day-to-day usage. That said, because of a clean software experience, zero bloatware and potent hardware, things have been rather fast and zippy for a phone that costs about 15,000 rupees. Although I will add that the large 6.8-inch screen coupled with the 20:9 aspect ratio is definitely a huge plus, and especially when it comes to watching movies or playing games, it simply feels so good. And yeah, so about the performance bit, I haven't come across any major issues as such. App opening times, RAM management and things like that have been pretty fine. Even the battery life has been holding up great up till now. I mean, the 5000 mAh cell coupled with Motorola's optimization is solid. Plus, you also get the 20-watt charger in the box, which again is not the fastest solution, but definitely better than Motorola's previous 10-watt chargers or even the competition's 18-watt alternatives. With that said, I'll be reserving my final thoughts about the Moto G51's long-term performance, battery life, camera performance, overall performance for my full review. So if you don't want to miss that, then definitely stay tuned to Mr. Phone. As always, thanks a lot guys for watching this video. I'll catch you all in the very next one.